The restaurant lights flickered against the polished wine glasses, casting long shadows over the table where Daniel sat, waiting. His heart pounded when he saw his wife, Elena, across the room, laughing a little too sweetly, leaning a little too close to the man beside her. His stomach turned as she scribbled something on a napkin and slid it across the table with a smirk. When Daniel stood up, rage burning in his chest, Elena's eyes met his without a trace of guilt. Instead, she rolled hers and snapped, "Don't be dramatic. It's just innocent flirting." And with that, she pressed the napkin with her number into the stranger's hand, shattering Daniel's world with a smile. The weeks following the incident were a study in silent, psychological warfare. Marcus and Sarah coexisted in a home that had become a tomb. He moved with a quiet, ghost-like efficiency, his face a mask of detached politeness. He continued to go to work, to pay bills, and to respond to her casual questions with monosyllabic answers. She, in turn, seemed to believe her dismissive words had worked, that he was simply sulking and would eventually get over it. She was wrong. Every silent meal, every empty touch, every moment she went on with her life as if nothing had happened, fueled the meticulous machine of his vengeance. His pursuit was not born of a blind rage. It was a cold, forensic process. While she slept, he was awake. He delved into their shared financial records, tracing every cent, every transaction. He found hidden credit cards, lavish dinner expenses for two, and receipts for boutique hotels in cities she had claimed to visit for work. He didn't feel hurt or sadness. He felt a clinical satisfaction as each piece of evidence fell into place. He installed spyware on her home computer and phone, not for emotional validation, but for hard, incontrovertible proof. The betrayal was an open wound, but the meticulous gathering of evidence was the antiseptic that kept it from festering. His singular focus consumed him. He began to look haggard, his eyes shadowed, his movements a little too deliberate. His best friend, Daniel, noticed the change. "You've got to let her go, man," Daniel said one afternoon over a beer Marcus barely touched. "I know it hurts, but you have to move on." Marcus simply stared into the murky depths of his glass. "It's not about letting go," he replied, his voice flat. "It's about justice." Daniel pressed further, talking about forgiveness and healing, but Marcus cut him off. "There is no healing," he said, the words heavy with conviction. "There's only a debt to be paid. And I'm collecting." He saw the pity in Daniel's eyes and hated it. Pity was for the weak, for those who lost. He was not a loser. He was a survivor, and he would not survive alone. He would pull her down with him. The pursuit of his revenge had alienated him from the only person who still cared for him, but he didn't care. He had traded companionship for purpose. His plan began to take shape. It wasn't just about a divorce and splitting assets. That was too clean, too simple. It wouldn't capture the essence of her crime. He needed to hit her where she lived. Not just her home, but her entire constructed reality. He would leverage his knowledge of their joint ventures, their mutual friends, and her professional connections. She had built her life on a foundation of lies, and he would expose every single one of them. He would use the law, but also public opinion, to ensure her downfall was total and irreversible. He would not just take back what was his. He would take everything that defined her. The last thing she would hear as her world collapsed would be the echo of her own careless words. He ended the chapter by finalizing his plan, the document of her ruin laid out on the table before him. He was ready to execute. The innocent flirtation was a calculated business move. Marcus discovered this not by digging into Sarah's infidelity, but by tracing the name of the man at the cafe, Richard Vance, a predatory venture capitalist who specialized in hostile takeovers. The innocuous meeting was a prelude to a far more sinister plot. Sarah, in her greed, wasn't just cheating. She was selling him out, giving Richard insider information about his company, a tech startup he had poured his life into. The flirting was a lie, a cover for a deeper, more profound betrayal. This discovery didn't soften Marcus's resolve. It hardened it into something unbreakable. His revenge was no longer about personal slight. It was about the survival of his life's work. The climactic confrontation was not a public screaming match. It was a perfectly timed, meticulously choreographed reveal. The annual gala for their industry was the perfect stage. Sarah was there, in a glittering gown, her hand on Richard's arm, basking in the spotlight. The moment she caught his eye, a flicker of apprehension crossed her face, quickly replaced by a cool, confident smile. She thought she had won. Marcus moved through the crowd, a quiet storm, until he was on the main stage, an uninvited guest at the microphone. The room fell silent as Marcus cleared his throat. He spoke, his voice calm and steady, devoid of emotion. He thanked everyone for their hard work and then, with the casual air of a man reading a business report, he began to lay out the evidence. He showed a digital copy of an email chain between Sarah and Richard, detailing his company's vulnerabilities. He showed a time-stamped photo of them sharing a celebratory dinner. Then, with a click of his remote, a security camera video from his own office's parking lot played on the large screen, showing Sarah handing Richard a folder of confidential documents. He didn't need to add a single word of commentary. He let the raw, damning evidence speak for itself. The gasp that swept through the room was deafening. Sarah's face drained of color, her poise shattering as the world watched her crumble. Richard, a shark to the end, simply detached himself from her side and melted into the crowd, leaving her isolated and exposed. A storm of whispers erupted, punctuated by the furious, bewildered faces of their friends and colleagues. Marcus didn't wait for the aftermath. He had given them the truth. The rest was for them to process. He walked off the stage, leaving Sarah alone in the center of a social and professional maelstrom. The look in her eyes as he passed was not one of rage or regret, but pure, unadulterated terror. He had delivered his justice, and it was a masterpiece of destruction. The resolution was not peace. It was a new, cold solitude. He filed for divorce the next morning, and within a month, she lost everything. Her reputation was in tatters, her social circle vanished, and her career was over. Richard, the master of corporate sabotage, had already moved on, leaving her to face the consequences alone. Marcus's company survived, stronger and more vigilant than ever. His friends tried to reach out, to celebrate his victory, but he couldn't connect with them. He had sacrificed his humanity on the altar of his revenge. He was free from Sarah, but he was also free from any semblance of the man he once was. He had won, but the victory was a hollow, echoing chamber. He was rich, successful, and utterly alone, a ghost in the life he had so meticulously saved. Moral of the story: in the pursuit of vengeance, the hunter and the hunted both become ghosts.